And welcome back to Music Free Static. I hope you're having a fabulous day. And we are living in a golden age of television. Okay. We are dealing with some of the best TV storytelling we've had in a while. Not to say there hasn't been great stories on TV before. It's just like, it just feels like it's everywhere. Okay. And we are seeing some amazing shows come out over the last few years that are that tell this fabulous story over the course of 8, 10 episodes, 20 episodes for a full like TV season. But more often than not, thanks to streaming, or this, I don't know, maybe you're cursing it because of streaming, but thanks to streaming, we're not seeing necessarily series that have 24 episodes. We're seeing series that are 6 or 8 or 10, and they're telling a story over those 6 or 8 or 10 episodes. So we're getting this beautiful serialized storytelling, okay? And that is awesome, okay? Because there's time to really dig into the meat of the story, all right? And it's awesome. Like, so I just finished watching Daredevil Born Again, which was a good series. I didn't enjoy it. Okay. Now, that's not to say I don't think it's a bad. Let me try that again. That doesn't mean I think it's a bad show. It is a show that is deep, and one is more gory and violent than I particularly like. So there's that. But it's not fun for me. Okay. If you like it, I'd say more power to you. Same with the original Netflix Daredevil shows, is that the shows were amazing. Okay. The stories, the acting, the everything about the shows was great. I didn't enjoy the show. Okay. It's just not a show that I'm going to go back and watch. Okay. And I talked about that on the podcast a couple of episodes when talking about, hey, it's because they're fun. Right. But what's awesome is you get time to let the story build, and you can really dig into the intricacies of the story that you're trying to tell. It takes time to get invested in the story, but it very often pays off. Okay. And because they set this up with a limited number of shows, it's like, we're going to do this in 8, or I think Daredevil was 13, 12 or 13 this season. But there's time to stretch things out and, really dive into the characters and what's going on and all this stuff. And it's fabulous. But all of that time it takes to get invested is an investment. Okay. If you want to get the entire story, you have to watch the entire season. Okay. That's fair. That's the nature of the beast, right? And I'll tell you, I often like serial TV over movies. Okay. Because you can tell more of a story and really dive into things. But sometimes it's really nice just to get all of the story at once. Okay. So, I can put on a movie, right? I can put on Star Wars, or I could put on Indiana Jones, or I can put on whatever, right? What Women Want, or, pick a movie, doesn't matter, right? You can watch the movie and you can get the entire story, okay? And that's fabulous, okay? Because sometimes, I don't have, was it 13 times 40 minutes per episode, right? Sometimes I don't have hours to sit and watch and get the entire story. Sometimes I want something smaller, okay? And movies are great for that. But I've been watching some old shows that I've never really got to see in the past. I'm watching the 1990s Sailor Moon anime, and I'm watching Stargate SG-1. Now, what's great about these shows is they're fun in different ways, okay? Sailor Moon and Stargate are definitely significantly different shows, okay? But they're episodic, okay? Yes, there might be an overarching through line, okay? Right? There could be something that says, "Hey, this threat is happening all season, but we're dealing with one adventure at a time." Okay? So in the case of Stargate SG-1, right, in season 1, they're dealing with the Goa'uld, who obviously I think they're an ongoing threat throughout the series from the episode or two I've seen here and there. But each episode is a contained thing, right? Just like Star Trek, it's a planet of the week. We're going to go to this planet, deal with something interesting, usually some fun sci-fi premise or whatever, and then we're back. Okay? And yeah, there is the ongoing story that they touch on, not necessarily in every episode, but ongoing is part of the reason they're exploring is, can we find ways to help protect ourselves from the Goa'uld, right? Because they are technologically superior and will definitely cause us problems if they ever show up, right? And, I find I've missed episodic storytelling, okay? Because most of the TV I've watched, it's been Star Wars, right? Because all the Star Wars shows have been, all the live action ones especially, have been this long ongoing story, okay? Whether it's Ahsoka or Obi-Wan or The Acolyte, it's been this one story told over the season. It makes it harder to go back and say, I want to watch episode 5 of The Acolyte, okay? Which was, if I'm remembering the numbering correctly, amazing. All right. There are lots of things about The Acolyte I'm not totally down with, but that episode was fabulous when the stranger meets the Jedi and just kicks butt. It's a pretty awesome episode. So, okay, but I'm still, if I'm going to go back and watch that, if I haven't seen any of it before and everyone just says, oh, episode 5 is amazing, and I go straight to episode 5, I don't know what's going on. I don't know who any of the characters are. I don't know just about anything. Okay. But with a lot of the episodic storytelling, right? Things like, okay, I could pull a random episode of Star Trek out, and I may not know exactly who Kirk and Spock and McCoy are, but I don't need to, right? Sure, they have their character and you get to know them. But hey, it's Kirk is the captain, Spock is the science guy, McCoy is the doctor. Gotcha. Why? Because they refer to him as Dr. McCoy. Or when they first talk to him, more often than not, it's because they have some medical thing, or they meet him, talk to him in sickbay or something like that, right? Same is true, like with Next Gen. You get Beverly Crusher, more often than not, you see her in sickbay. And there's the captain. Oh, there's Captain Picard. Hey, they refer to him as Captain Picard. Okay, he's the guy in charge. And everybody else, yes, you get to know their character over the episodes, but you don't need to know this epic backstory to understand what story is being told in that episode of Star Trek. Okay? Right, there are some, like one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek is City on the Edge of Forever, where Kirk and Spock go back in time to catch McCoy, who's also gone back in time and changes something in the timeline. There isn't a whole lot that you need to know about the characters, other than Kirk is in charge and Spock is the science guy and an alien, but also a science guy, right? That's sort of the details. And then, of course, you meet Edith Keeler and everything in the past. And McCoy's character actually is somewhat irrelevant because he gets OD'd with this medication, and now he is acting contrary to character. He is now hyper paranoid, and right, all of that stuff is just okay. You don't have to know who Kirk is. You don't have to know who Spock is. You don't have to know who McCoy is, because they get you enough details to enjoy the story. Okay. The same is true with Stargate SG-1. You've got the colonel who's in charge, right? Okay, Jack, he's commanding the team, right? You've got the scientist over there. You've got the brooding alien guy, right? Teal'c, right? Oh, look, big brooding, sad, angry looking, bald guy over there, right? Okay, and he's got a gold thing on his head, so obviously he's an alien or something, because I watch Star Trek. I know how this stuff works, right? Right, and then you've got Sam Carter, who is combination scientist and soldier, okay? And so it doesn't take a lot to understand sort of the team dynamics as they go now and explore whatever the next adventure is, okay? And so you don't have to be as invested in the characters. So with Stargate, I knew Stargate was on when it was live, when it was first airing. I'd seen a couple of episodes and I liked it, but it was at a time in my life where I just could not sit down and schedule time to watch Stargate, based on what was going on in my life, okay? So I missed most of it, but I'd catch an episode here and there, or I'd catch one on reruns and things like that. And I remember dropping into an episode of SG-1. It was probably third or fourth season, something like that. I don't know, actually. All I know is I understand the Stargate. Okay, I'd seen a couple of episodes and timey-wimey space travel thingy bob. Gotcha. I understand this. We could do this. And here's Colonel O'Neill and here's Teal'c, and they get thrown back into a time loop, sort of Groundhog Day style, right? And they have to figure out the math to get them home. And neither of them's a scientist. So every day they're restarting their day and they have to go find Dr. Jackson to teach them how to Stargate. Okay, so they can figure out how to get home, right? Awesome. Well, it has some fun moments as they go through, right, which I enjoyed. But I didn't have to know the details about Teal'c being an alien with a Goa'uld larva that he's nurturing, right? I didn't have to know that. All I know about O'Neill going into that episode is, okay, he led the team, but that's all I needed to know. I mean, he's not a scientist, okay? Oh, hey, we meet Daniel, and yep, he is a scientist. Okay. Right? I don't need to know all of the background. If I do, there's more I can maybe get more out of it. But to enjoy the story and to laugh at some of the sight gags and other things that happen during the show, I'm good, right? I don't have to be as invested on a per episode basis. And I found the episodes are great as, I don't know, maybe think of it maybe it's just a snack, right? If you sit down to watch something like Daredevil, where you've got this long season and this full season-long storyline, it's an investment, right? You're going to be sitting here, you're going to be taking a lot of time. It's like going to a formal dinner or maybe an all-you-can-eat buffet, especially if you're there with teenagers. You're going to be there for a while. I'm fairly certain that my kids are the reason Country Buffet went bankrupt. Okay, just spitballing here a little bit, but it could be. But if I were to sit down and just watch an episode here and there, I can do that, right? And that's what I've been doing with Sailor Moon and Stargate. Sailor Moon's a little harder to throw on the background because it's subtitled, so I have to actually watch it for the subtitles. But if I'm doing something, I just want to throw an episode of something on, I can fire up the next episode of Stargate. And I don't have to worry about, do I need to remember what happened last time? And if it's a week or so, couple of weeks, whatever, between the last time I watched, it's no big deal. Or if I put on 2 or 3 episodes, cool, I can do that. Now, I just watched the end of season 1, which is a 3-episode story. Cool. I got that. We got that. It was fun. But it makes it really nice to just sit down and, hey, I want to watch this tonight. And I've done that with Star Trek because, there are times like, man, I just want to watch some Star Trek. I'm going to fire up Trouble with Tribbles, right? And seriously, my go-to, the original series is my go-to for episode by episode. I just want to watch a thing. Partly because I grew up watching Star Trek from reruns. And because my dad had taped them off TV. And so we had a bunch of them off on VHS, and I just, would fire that up and let it go. Or we had a couple, it was before they were releasing the full series. So sometimes you'd buy a tape that was an episode or a couple of episodes like that too. But it was really easy just to sit down. Hey, I'm going to watch Trouble with Tribbles or a piece of the action or, whatever, right? Or the Doomsday Machine. Oh, that one is so good too, man. There are some really good episodes of the original Star Trek. There are some really bad ones too. Don't get me wrong, okay? Starting season 3 with Spock's brain. Oh, ow, that would hurt. That one is just painful to watch. There's nothing good about that episode. Oh, Leonard Nimoy is really good at just standing still, I guess. I don't know. But it's great. I don't typically do that with Next Gen. I don't know why. Because I've watched Star Trek The Next Generation a lot of times. I just very rarely do I go back and say, you know what? I need to go watch this episode of Next Gen. Okay? Same with Deep Space Nine or Voyager. Though in the case of Voyager, I don't think I've seen the entire series more than twice. I'm not even sure I've seen the entire series twice. And I didn't see all of Enterprise. I liked what I saw for the most part, but again, it was one of those, I was in college when it aired, didn't get to see it live. We got it on disc, and it wasn't quite as compelling, a lot of it. So the last season was fun. I liked that one. Anyway, but that's the awesome thing about episodic storytelling is that, I don't have to commit to watching all of this, right? Yeah, and I have that problem with like Lord of the Rings. I love the movies of the Lord of the Rings, and I have the extended editions, and I love to watch them, but it's 12 freaking hours to watch the show, right? And I've done that, and for a while, sometimes, okay, I'm going to watch Lord of the Rings, like when my kids were little, and we'd put on our grown-up movies after they went to bed, right? Well, Lord of the Rings is 12 freaking hours, and the extended editions are long, so even per movie. So we'd watch half of it, because that's where the disc changed, right? So we'd watch, here's the first 2 hours of the first, I forgot how do they break it up, but so I'd watch the first 2 towers. I've got the books behind me. I suppose I could look there, but anyway, so we'd watch those, and we'd spend all week, and we'd watch Lord of the Rings. But I don't always want to sit down and watch 12 hours of a show, right? So it makes it tough to go back and watch something like Moon Knight, which I really liked, or WandaVision, which is a weird combination of serial and episodic, because it's a serial story, but the framework is episodes. It's very cool and very weird, and I love it. But again, not exactly a story that I can fire up episode 4, whatever episode 4 is, and just watch that one. Okay? That doesn't quite work. You know what I mean? So there's a point where you sit down and look at it. It's like, okay, is there one that's better? Is it better to have serialized storytelling or better to have episodic storytelling? I don't think the answer to that is a definitive yes to either of them. Okay? Because I love the serialized storytelling, right? I love sitting down and watching Moon Knight and watching as he figures out his insanity and the weird superhero nature of the of his multiple personalities and all that fun stuff. That was awesome. Okay. And I loved watching Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? I love that show. I know there were some parts of it that were a little weird, and that's fair. It's like, okay, really? But hey, what else are you gonna do? It's Star Wars. Sometimes you let things go. But sometimes I just don't want to invest that much time in a story, right? There are series, like I have this problem with book series too. I love book series. I love getting a book or getting a series of books, right? And it doesn't matter if it's Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, which, hey, it's a 6-book series in 3 volumes. Okay, but it's right. That's relatively short. Potter, okay, that's 7 books, and they tend to get progressively longer, but it's a little bit of an investment. Or the Honor Harrington series, which is amazing, but it's 20-something freaking books. And some of them, they're long books. Okay? And I love the series, and I love the character. But I know if I'm going to pick up Honor Harrington, I'm going to be in it for the long haul, because that is going to take me 6 months to get through. Okay? Or longer. Okay? Because I don't just sit and read like I used to. Okay? So it's nice sometimes just to pick up one book. Okay? Listen, I'm reading today how to become the Dark Lord and die trying. Okay, great book. Vulgar as all get out, but funny, right? And it's okay, at least I think there's a second book coming out, okay? But we're not talking about this huge time investment. And sometimes you just don't have time for that, right? So I think there's definitely a place for both of those things, right? Sometimes I just want to pick up a book and read it. Like, I'll grab The Martian, right? I love The Martian. That is a fun book. Okay, language could be better, right? I'm not a huge fan of all the profanity, but hey, the science is fun, the comedy is fun, the story is fun. I'm happy just to read that book and now move on to something else. And yeah, and then sometimes I do want to sit down and I'm going to reread Twilight or Fablehaven. Yes, I did say Twilight. Yes, I have read it multiple times. No, it's not a good series. But yes, it's still kind of fun. Okay. I might do a really late book review of Twilight at some point. There is like, out of the 4 books in that series, there's 1.5 good books. Okay. And I'm sorry, at least, for me, okay, if you're totally down with the, that's great. Okay. But, that's fine. Right. But, sometimes I want to sit down and grab a series. Fablehaven is another one I've been meaning to get around and read. Those books are a little bit harder for me to get through, but I enjoy the series, and it's 7 books, and do I want to spend that much time on it, right? It is very much hey, where do I want to invest? Am I going to be looking at, yep, this is my life for the next however long it takes to read a book or to watch all of a serialized show to get the story? And as I said, I love the serialized stories because it's great being able to dive into the problems, or you see the train heading towards that dumpster fire and you just have to watch because it's fabulous to see all of the reactions to how it's going to go down. Right? That's great. Okay? And I loved going back and rewatching some of that stuff. But then, I like the fact that Star Trek Strange New Worlds is Star Trek. It is episodic. I am going to watch this episode. And yeah, there is an overarching storyline at times, right? You've got Pike knowing the future. He knows at some point he's going to end up debilitated in the little beepy chair. Okay. And so every once in a while you get blips of what's happening with that story. And yeah, there is character progression across episodes, whether it's young Ensign Uhura or Cadet Uhura, I think she is in the first season, learning that, yeah, Starfleet is where I want to be. And her progression, or the ongoing storyline of Spock and Christine Chapel and all of that, or Spock's relationship with T'Pring, right? Which you don't really see in the original series, but they play with in Strange New Worlds. So yeah, it's it makes those shows. I guess I want to say it makes them fun, because some of those episodes are not the most fun I've ever had. But it's definitely a show where you can sit down and say, you know what, we can just get totally wacky with this one and enjoy the wackiness of it, and then we can go do something a little more serious or something more pure sci-fi or whatever with these next episodes, right? And you can enjoy the change of pace and all of that, right? So is there one better than another? I don't think so. I think it's just a matter of, what are you sort of feeling? Because there are amazing aspects of both formats. And yeah, movies are in there somewhere. It's gotten to a point in a lot of ways that movies are just a long TV show. Right? It's a long episode, right? It's especially true if you're watching like the MCU. But the idea of, nope, this is, yes, it's a longer story. It's longer than your 40 or 45-minute episode of TV. It's 2 hours, 2.5 hours, sometimes an hour and a half, whatever you're watching. And you can just get whatever it is you're going to get there. And you can watch it and you're done and you move on. I think there's a place for all of those things. And I'll tell you, yeah, there have definitely been days like, yep, I need to put on a movie. I need something that's longer than an episode of TV, but not as involved as a full season of a serialized show, right? And I love having the options. And I guess maybe that's what I'm saying here, is that it's great to have options. And I'm hoping that there are shows that will continue to do the episodic stuff. And at the same time, we could have shows that tell a story over a full 10, 12, 20 episode season. And we can have movies in between and all of this stuff. So let me know what you think. Is there a format you prefer? What are your favorite shows? I don't know. Just drop a comment or join the Discord. We've got a new movies, TV, and books channel in the Discord server, so we can just talk about all the things. And until next time, be excellent to each other. And this is Music Free Static signing off.